whatever.
Law,
I put you in a different category.
When it comes to the law and due process, that is not a distinction.
Well, if you'd like to argue that Trinidad or Aragua should have the same rights and that you get as an American citizen, go ahead.
I would change the Constitution. Hold on a second. The argument is
you're saying that a terrorist can walk across the border and become effectively a U.S. citizen?
That's not what I'm saying.
Scott, look at me. Okay?
Yeah,
you and I are talking about. You and I are talking, okay? What I'm saying to you is that the law does not make a distinction between U.S. citizens and everybody else when it comes to being accused of crimes. Are you saying that that should not be in place? That if you happen to not be a citizen, you get to be thrown into a jail with no process at all?
I'm saying that these people are effectively terrorists. They walked across our borders illegally.
Okay.
They are violent. I don't really want them here.
Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?
Don't.
Well, it sounds like if somebody got convicted of a violent crime that he just described.
Wait, sorry. So you're saying what's wrong with sending Americans to a prison in El Salvador?
I'm saying what's wrong with sending people who are convicted of violent crimes to prison, period.
No. That's not what he said. He said he's going to send them to a prison.
Yeah, so?
The vice president called it a gulag in El Salvador. Is that okay with you?
If you are convicted of a violent crime in this country, and a court finds you guilty of whatever those things he just listed, and it's okay by the law, which he said at the end of his answer. I mean,
how is it okay by the law to extradite Americans to a foreign country for crimes they committed here?
Well, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think what he's saying is if it's okay by the law to put someone in prison,
okay, but
then they're going to do it. But he said if it's okay by the law, I don't know if it is or not, but that's what he said.
But you don't know. You just don't.
Well, it sounds like if somebody got convicted of a violent crime that he just described. I think I do think there is some belief that these tariffs will stimulate manufacturing in the United States. Could take on many forms. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the Industrial Revolution or whatever, but I think it's reasonable to assume that if it's cheaper to make things in the United States and sell them to Americans, some people will do that, and they've already announced like $1 trillion worth of investments, more than Joe Biden had in his 4 years. I think to your point about which is it, well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think he does love tariffs. He's always loved tariffs. He's loved tariffs for 40 years. But at the same time, they have been pretty clear. They see this as a long-term restructuring of the global trade order, and they see it as some kind of a revolution inside the United States that puts the working class at the center of our economy instead of Wall Street. And that's kind of how he ran his campaign. And frankly, that's the coalition that he put together to win. I do think there is some belief that these tariffs will stimulate manufacturing in the United States. Could take
a few minutes later.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
I do think there is some belief that these tariffs will stimulate manufacturing in the United States. Could take on many forms. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the Industrial Revolution or whatever, but I think it's reasonable to assume that if it's cheaper to make things in the United States and sell them to Americans, some people will do that, and they've already announced like $1 trillion worth of investments, more than Joe Biden had in his 4 years. I think to your point about which is it, well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think he does love tariffs. He's always loved tariffs. He's loved tariffs for 40 years. But at the same time, they have been pretty clear. They see this as a long-term restructuring of the global trade order, and they see it as some kind of a revolution inside the United States that puts the working class at the center of our economy instead of Wall Street. And that's kind of how he ran his campaign. And frankly, that's the coalition that he put together to win. I do think there is some belief that these tariffs will stimulate manufacturing in the United States. Could take.
But it wasn't put out by one man.
But I disagree.
Go ahead, Scott.
I think the market meltdown and the interest rate hikes and everything that happened in 2022 and during most of Biden's term actually was caused by one person. The President of the United States led his party to printing $1.9 trillion of money into the economy. That caused the inflation. And the markets reacted, the interest rates reacted.
Was that bad, Scott?
Was it bad that the markets were down 20 and 30% in 2022? You seem to think it's bad today. Was it bad then?
Was it bad that, if in your view, that one man precipitated a stock market drop? So is it, to Eric Erickson's point, is it bad now that one man has precipitated massive sell-offs in the stock market and a risk of recession?
Well, we're going to see how it turns out. I don't know that we're in a risk of a recession right now.
So you won't say that it's bad now?
I don't know how it's going to turn out. But your question to me, this has never happened before. It happened for 4 years.
My question to you is about being intellectually honest. If it was bad then, shouldn't it be bad now?
I don't know how this is going to turn out. It's been a week.
No, but listen,
so we'll see.
To Eric's point, okay.
I think the Trump administration has an argument to make. It's not going to be sorted out at the district or even Court of Appeals level. At some juncture, because it is a serious separation of powers issue, the Supreme Court has to step in. By the way, you invoke the word inhumane. I would just point out that I don't think Jessica Nungare or Laken Riley or any other victims of some of these illegal immigrants and gang members, they weren't treated very humanely. And I think what Trump is responding to is an outcry from the American people to solve this issue, to get the criminals out, and that's what they're doing. That's what they believe their mandate is to do, and I think there are legal arguments to be made, but you cannot deny that the American people are giving them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to exiting from the country these animals.
According to the White House press secretary, quote, Canada is bending the knee just like Mexico. Is that what's happening here?
This is hilarious to me because Trump got rolled by both of these countries, and no one, least of all Trump, seems to have realized it. Both the leaders of Mexico and Canada have agreed to do what they have already been doing. It's just that Trump didn't seem to know about it. Like, for example, the president of Mexico said that she would commit to having 10,000 troops at the U.S.-Mexico border. Guess what? There are already 15,000 people there, troops, military troops from Mexico there, and have been there for years. Trump didn't seem to notice this. Same deal with Canada. Prime Minister Trudeau said, aha, we're going to spend $1.3 billion on investing in border security. Guess what? They announced that $1.3 billion last year. You know, this is about saving face, I guess. I don't know if nobody informed Trump that there are no actual concessions here, but that will, of course, not stop him from claiming victory.
There's a pause on this because, as has been reported by CNN and every other news outlet, both Mexico and Canada have reached agreements today with Donald Trump to do what we want them to do, which is to put people and technology and resources at the border to stop the flow of people and drugs, illegal immigration, stem the tide. That is the whole point of this exercise, and that is apparently what is happening. And yes, there have been some troops there in Mexico. This is an agreement to do permanent deployment. And yes, some of this stuff in Canada was already announced, but now they were dragging their feet. Now their feet are held to the fire. They've got 30 days to really implement, and they can't pussyfoot around anymore. So the point of this exercise today, to me, had less to do with trade and more to do with saying to our neighbors, you need to be better neighbors. We are more important to your economy than you are to ours, so you need to help us with our serious problem, which is illegal immigration and people dying from fentanyl. And they both said yes today, and that is a win for Donald Trump.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. 7 million means that they're not just going after criminals.
Well, they're going after people who are in the country illegally, right?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying the criminals, this is a much bigger universe.
Doesn't that make you a criminal?
No, it doesn't.
To come across the border illegally?
Coming into the country illegally is a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense.
Okay, if you come into the country illegally, here's the message. We're going to find you and send you back. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the way it is. And I think the government should pull all the levers at its disposal to find people and pull this off. It's what the American people asked Donald Trump to do. Yes, they should be deporting violent people. Yes, they should be deporting people who committed violent acts before they came here. But at some juncture, if you're going to allow any illegal immigration at all, the message then goes out. Just get here. It'll probably work out for you. That was the last administration. This is a different one. Your view is that Trump is shredding the Constitution. I'd like to hear more about that. but that it seems to me that you all both believe that the unelected part of our government, the bureaucracy, has a responsibility to resist the political leadership. Is that your view?
That's not actually what
not at all.
We said they are upholding the Constitution, the principles of the Constitution, and at times
How
we
is
have
Trump
seen,
shredding the Constitution?
My God, he's like.
I mean, seriously,
He
we have to
doesn't
give
believe
you
in
a
the
civics
balance of
lesson
power,
that we have.
I don't know,
we put all power in the executive
How is
branch.
holding the
The legislative branch, the FBI. Now we're in control of the military,
Yes.
silencing media.
Chief
This is
of the
what you
military.
do
He's a
in a
great part of
dictatorship.
Stop the cap.
Are you suggesting that the president is not the commander-in-chief of the military?
I'm suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're gaslighting. But when we get to the actual rubber of the road of this, it will be clear.
I'm interested in this conversation. He's going to put someone in charge who will contravene the Constitution. Like who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
This is important, but conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm letting you have it. Yeah, I mean, I think it is important because there is this perception that Trump does want to push the boundaries of what is in his constitutional lane. And his staff secretary said that apparently he signed an executive order saying that only he and the attorney general get to say what the law is. So that's the type of thing that I think that Trump has said that has caused people to question, what does he mean by that?
I don't think he has done anything in the first month that is outside the bounds of the power vested in him by the Constitution. He was elected president. We, according to the Constitution, vest all executive authority in a president. And the concept that the military should be an independent agency or that the bureaucracy should resist the political leadership of this government is extraordinarily dangerous.
That's what we said. That's such a straw
That's not what
man.
we said. That's literally not what we said.
I'm just repeating back to you your own
I
words.
did not say resist.
Yeah, I mean, elections are ultimately about choices. They aren't, you don't have them in a vacuum. And I would just argue back to Kamala Harris that, I told you so. I agree. I told you so. Donald Trump was going to close the southern border. I told you so. He was going to bring order to immigration. I told you so. He was going to drag this country out of the left-wing cultural ditch and put us back towards more mainstream, middle of the road.
Do you think he's done the last thing?
I did tell you so. Now, he's also executing, as you all have acknowledged, his economic agenda, just as he said he was going to do. He's enacting tariffs, and he's asking the Congress to make the tax cuts permanent, and he's unleashing American energy. So I agree. It is I told you so, and about half the country is okay with it, and about half the country voted for it. So it strikes me that this is a healthy level of copium going on right now among Democrats who are telling themselves stories that the people who voted for this are not happy with it. The vast majority, if not everyone who voted for Donald Trump, is some level of happiness ranging from 9 to 10 on the happiness scale.
Completely disagree.
Then when they admit that they did it by accident, they say, it's too late. We have no jurisdiction now. We can't do anything about it. That's not fair. And it can happen to anybody. And if we don't stop it now, the scope will get bigger, and then it will happen to you, and then you'll have a problem with it.
I think also you're conflating legal American citizens with people who came here illegally. We do this all the time in these debates. And I think what the administration is trying to do is be as aggressive as possible at deporting different kinds of populations. One, people who've committed heinous, violent crimes. Number two, people that were violent before they came here. Number three, anyone who came here illegally. I mean, look, I'm sorry, but if you came here illegally, no matter how well-intentioned you were, there's probably a decent chance you're going to be sent back. And that's what the administration clearly communicated to the American people in the election. They overwhelmingly voted for it, and it's not particularly a controversial matter.
Then when they admit that they did it by accident, they say, it's too late. We have no jurisdiction now. We can't do anything about it. That's not fair. And it can
He's mercurial. Honestly, if it was Kamala Harris behaving this way, they'd call her hormonal and hysterical, right? Look.
Well, you'd have to get elected to be.
But, well, yes, and if she had been elected and if Hillary Clinton had been elected, if any woman had been elected and been acting this way, they'd say it was menopause.
She would have never stood up to China, so I think this is a mood issue, right?
No, it's not. He's mercurial. Honestly, if it was Kamala Harris behaving this way, they'd call her hormonal and hysterical, right? Look.
Well, you'd have to get elected to be.
But, well, yes, and if she had been elected and if Hillary Clinton had been elected, if any woman had been elected and been acting this way, they'd say it was menopause.
She would have never stood up to China, so this is a mood issue, right?
No, it's not. He's mercurial. Honestly, if it was Kamala Harris behaving this way, they'd call her hormonal and hysterical, right? Look.
Well, you'd have to get elected to be.
But, well, yes, and if she had been elected and if Hillary Clinton had been elected, if any woman had been elected and
This president has been trying to lay at Joe Biden's feet various economic problems that he inherited. Fine. Fair. Now, it does seem to me that one way or the other, this is Donald Trump's economy now. He can, if the manufacturing comes back, he can get credit for that later. But if we don't bounce back from this, if we end up in a depression, that's on Donald Trump too.
Well, yeah, this is his plan. He's been talking about tariffs for a very long time. He believes in it. And right now, according to the Treasury Secretary, we have over 50 countries who've already come to the table and want to engage with the United States and talk about how we can have a more fair free trade relationship with them. That's a good thing, number one. Number two, this is only part of the deal. The other part of the deal is making the tax cuts permanent. And maybe even, if I were them, cut the capital gains tax and offer to slash the corporate tax rate and see if you can get any Democrats to join, because I'm amused by the Democrats who are all of a sudden free traders and for lower taxes. Well, if you've got Democrats who'd like to reduce the taxation on corporate activity, well, let's see how serious they are. Cut capital gains, slash the corporate income tax rate. I find it amusing that everybody talks about the 08 crash and the COVID. No one ever mentions that in 2022, the S&P was down 20, the NASDAQ was down 33, and I don't remember any of these Democrats being in hysterics when the market fully crashed in 2022. So I think Republicans are content
to let the president.
Well, what would you
ascribe the reason for that happening?
I assume it was some combination of terrible fiscal policy and lack of confidence in the president. And so,
they're sometimes related, but in this case, this was a very specific action with a very specific reaction.
And the market was flat today.
I do, in the end, it was.
I wanted to congratulate you on the show because although occasionally we've gotten outside the navigational beacons, most of the time we keep going. And we've had some really good conversations. And second, I just also wanted to say something to my friend Ashley. She's a Democrat. We don't agree on a lot of political issues, but my respect and admiration for Ashley has grown throughout the year. And I'm proud to call her my friend. This community of CNN political contributors is like a family to me. And if I had any advice for people who watch this show, and before we learn who wins, it's cherish your family, cherish your friendships, and don't do or say anything stupid over an election this week that would put any of what really matters in jeopardy.
Yeah, I think.
More people inventing useful things, like Mr. Bobby Ashimura, who wins our Max Headroom Product of the Month award for coming up with a little attachment you plug into your TV and it warns you that the commercial break is coming by automatically switching off your set for 5 seconds. And here to demonstrate it for us is Mr. Ashimura himself.